Hey, sweetheart, it's Auntie Grace here, and today I'm sharing a confession I never thought I'd say out loud. I'm not proud of how long I stayed quiet, how hard I tried to hold a marriage together with my bare hands while my husband slowly let it fall apart. But if you've ever been blindsided by betrayal, if you've ever felt your heart drop because the person you trusted most had a whole secret life, then you'll understand why I'm telling this story. This isn't just about cheating, it's about money, power, humiliation, and the moment I realized I was the reason my husband's world worked. And once I stopped holding it up, everything changed. Asterisk, I used to believe love was something you built, brick by brick, even when life got messy. I believed that if you showed up every day, even on the hard days, you could make a marriage last. That's what I told myself for 11 years with my husband, Derek. We lived in a quiet Ohio town where the grocery store cashier remembered your name and the neighbors waved like they knew your whole story. I worked as a dental office manager at Dr. Patel's clinic, and Derek ran a small contracting business that started as one old truck and a toolbox. When we were newly married, we used to sit at our kitchen table with stacks of receipts and a calculator, dreaming out loud about the future. I wasn't just his wife. I was the one who kept the lights on. I handled the books, the taxes, the invoices, the payroll, and every dollar that kept us afloat. At first, Derek appreciated it. He'd kiss my forehead and say, "I don't know what I'd do without you, Maya." I'd smile and say, "You'd be eating cereal for dinner and forgetting to pay the water bill." He'd laugh. True, I'd be lost. That was the Derek I married. Warm, grateful, a little messy, but mine. Then, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic at first. It was small things. He started coming home later. He started keeping his phone face down. He started dressing like he had something to prove. And he started wearing cologne, not the cheap drugstore kind he used to grab once a year. This was sharp and expensive, like a man trying to impress someone. One evening, I asked him casually, "Why do you smell like a department store?" He didn't even look up from taking off his boots. New clients, big jobs, gotta look professional. I blinked. "Since when do you wear cologne for clients?" He shrugged. "Since I'm trying to grow the business." I wanted to trust him, so I did. That's what good wives do, right? We give the benefit of the doubt. We don't accuse, we don't assume the worst. We hold the marriage like a fragile glass and pray it doesn't shatter. But the late nights kept happening. Traffic was insane, he'd say. Job ran over, he'd say. Had to meet a supplier, he'd say. And I'd nod, even though my stomach tightened every time he said it. One night, my best friend Leela came over with iced coffee and gossip like she always did. She sat at my kitchen island and watched me stare at my phone like it might confess something. "You're doing that thing again," she said. "What thing?" I asked. "The thing where you pretend you're fine, but your eyes are screaming." I forced a laugh. "I'm just tired." Lila leaned in. "Maya, is Derek acting weird?" I hesitated. "He's busy, that's all." "Busy doesn't mean secretive," she said softly. "Just keep your eyes open." I waved her off, but her words stuck to me like burrs. A few days later, Derek came home with a grin and a paper bag in his hand. "What's that?" I asked. "Dinner," he said. "Thought I'd treat you." I peeked inside. It was my favorite chicken salad from the deli. I smiled. "That's sweet." He kissed my cheek. "See, I'm still a good husband." The way he said it made my skin prickle, like he was trying to convince himself. That Friday night, everything changed. Derek had been in a good mood all day. He even whistled while he ate dinner. He told me he had an early start tomorrow, then took a shower. I was cleaning up the kitchen, stacking plates, wiping counters, doing the little wife things I'd done 1,000 times. His phone was on the counter by the fruit bowl, buzzing every few minutes. I told myself not to look. I told myself it was none of my business. I told myself I was being paranoid. Then the screen lit up again, bright and undeniable, and I saw a message flash across it like a slap. "I miss you. Can't wait to be your wife." My hands went cold. My whole body froze like someone had poured ice water down my spine. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even breathe right for a second. I just stared at that glowing proof like it was a doorway to a life I didn't recognize. I picked up the phone with shaking fingers. The message preview was still there. The contact name was saved as Tessa. No last name. No emoji. Just Tessa. I whispered to myself, "Who are you?" The shower was still running. I could hear Derek humming behind the bathroom door. like he didn't have a care in the world, like he wasn't destroying me in real time. I wanted to throw the phone. I wanted to run into the bathroom and demand answers. I wanted to rewind time and not be standing in my own kitchen feeling like a stranger in my own marriage. Instead, I stood there, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. When Derek walked out of the bathroom in a towel, steam following him like a fog, he smiled at me like nothing was wrong. "You okay?" he asked. I swallowed hard. "Yeah." He stepped closer, his hair damp, his face relaxed. "You look pale." "I'm just tired," I managed. He reached for his phone. "I'm gonna check something real quick." My hand tightened around it. "It's dead," I lied. He frowned. "What?" I forced a small laugh. "After, it's been acting weird." He shrugged. "Whatever." He walked to the bedroom, still humming. I stood there alone in the kitchen, staring at the dark screen now, my heart pounding so loud it felt like it might crack my ribs. I sat down at the table slowly, like my legs didn't trust me to hold my own weight. My mind raced through every late night, every new shirt, every unexplained charge, every moment I'd ignored my instincts because I wanted to be a good wife. I whispered, "Please tell me this isn't real." But it was real. And the worst part was, I didn't even know how long it had been real. The next morning, Derek acted normal. Too normal. He drank coffee, kissed my cheek, and said, "I'll be back around 6. I stared at him. "Sure." He paused like he wanted to say something else, then just grabbed his keys. "Love you." I didn't say it back. He didn't notice. Or maybe he did and didn't care. At work, I couldn't focus. I checked patients in, smiled politely, answered phones, but my mind was stuck on one name, Tessa. During lunch, I sat in my car and called Leela. She answered immediately. "Hey babe, what's up?" My voice cracked. "I think Derek is cheating." There was a long silence. Then Leela whispered, "Oh Maya." I wiped my face quickly. Even though no tears had fallen yet, I saw a message. What did it say? Asterisk. I swallowed. She said she can't wait to be his wife. Lila inhaled sharply. "That's not flirting. That's plans." I stared out at the parking lot, feeling numb. What do I do? Leela's voice got firm. "You get proof. Real proof. Because men like Derek will lie until the sky falls." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "Okay. And Maya," she added. "Yeah, don't confront him yet. Not until you know exactly what you're dealing with." I took a shaky breath. "Okay." That night, Derek came home late again. He smelled like that expensive cologne, and he didn't look me in the eye. "Long day," he said. I forced myself to smile. "You hungry?" He blinked like he hadn't expected kindness. "Ah, no, I ate already." "Where?" I asked, keeping my voice light. He hesitated. "Just grabbed something." I nodded. "Okay." He walked past me toward the bedroom, and I watched his back like I was watching a man walk out of my life. When he shut the bedroom door, I sat on the couch and stared at the wall. My chest felt tight, like I was holding my breath underwater. I whispered, "I'm going to find out who she is," because by then, I already knew my marriage was bleeding out, and I was about to find out who was holding the knife, and what else they'd stolen from me. Asterisk. I didn't confront Derek right away, because I needed more than a gut feeling and one message. I needed truth that couldn't be talked around. I needed something solid, something he couldn't shrug off with a laugh and a lie. So I started watching him like I was studying a stranger. It was a strange feeling, living with someone you loved while quietly collecting evidence like a detective. On Monday morning, Derek left early, saying, "Big job today." I smiled and handed him his travel mug. "Be safe." He kissed my cheek. Always. The moment he walked out, I felt sick. That night, I opened our shared email account. We'd always shared it because it was tied to the business invoices. I typed in the password easily because I'd created it years ago. My fingers trembled as I searched words like reservation, confirmation, and receipt. At first, nothing jumped out. Then I found an email labeled business expense. Inside was a hotel confirmation for a Friday night, downtown Columbus. 1 room, king bed. I whispered, "You've got to be kidding me." My hands shook as I clicked the next email. Another confirmation, different date, same hotel. I felt my stomach drop. When Derek came home, I acted normal. I asked him about his day. I served dinner. I listened to him talk about supplies and clients like he was reading from a script. "Busy?" I asked. He nodded. "Yeah, exhausting." I stared at him. "Worth it?" He smirked. "Always worth it." That smirk made me want to scream. The next day, I opened our bank app. I told myself I was just checking the balance like I always did. But I wasn't. I was hunting. And there it was. A charge at a restaurant called Marigold and Vine. A place Derek used to call too fancy. I remembered once begging him, "Can we go there for our anniversary?" And him saying, "Why waste money on that?" But now he'd wasted money on it just fine. I took screenshots. I saved everything. That night, I called Leela again. I found hotel receipts. I whispered, "Oh Maya," she said, her voice heavy. "And a restaurant charge," I added. "The fancy one." Leela sighed. "He's not even trying to hide it." "I feel stupid," I admitted. "You're not stupid," she snapped. "You're loyal." "He's reckless," I swallowed. "I need her name. I need to know who she is." Lila paused. "You saw the contact name, right?" "Tessa," I said. Lila went quiet. Then she said, "Tessa, Tessa, what?" I asked, my heart racing. "I think I've heard that name," she said slowly. "There's a woman who started working with a local realtor. Tall, blonde, always posting selfies. I think her name is Tessa." My throat tightened. "You think it's her?" "I don't know," Lila said. "But if it is, she's trouble." That word stuck. Trouble. 2 days later, I found her name in the business records. I was doing payroll when I noticed an invoice I didn't recognize. It was listed under consultant services. The name attached, Tessa Harlow. Consultant for what, exactly? My heart pounded as I stared at the screen. I clicked the invoice details. The payment had been approved by Derek. It wasn't small. It was enough to make my face burn. He wasn't just cheating. He was using our business to pay her. That night, Derek came home later than usual. He didn't smell like sweat or sawdust. He smelled like that expensive cologne again. "Long day?" I asked, my voice calm. He tossed his keys on the counter. "Yeah. Any new clients?" I pressed. He shrugged. "A few." I nodded slowly. "Must be nice." He frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" I forced a smile. "Nothing. Just nice." He watched me for a moment like he was trying to read my face. Then, he walked away. My hands trembled as I washed dishes, and I realized I couldn't keep doing this. I couldn't keep smiling while my life was being stolen. So I did the thing I never thought I'd do. One night, I followed him. I waited until he left, then grabbed my keys and drove behind him at a safe distance. My heart hammered so loud I thought it would shake my steering wheel apart. He didn't go to a job site. He didn't go to a supplier. He drove straight to a modern apartment building on the other side of town. The kind with glass balconies and a security gate. I parked down the street, my hands sweating on the wheel. Derek got out, adjusted his jacket, and walked in like he belonged there. 10 minutes later, she came down the steps. Tessa. She was tall, polished, wearing a cream-colored coat like she was in a magazine. She laughed, and it was bright and careless. Then she stepped close to Derek and kissed him, like I was already erased. I covered my mouth with my hand to keep from making a sound. My eyes stung, but I didn't cry. Not yet. I watched them walk back inside together. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. Not in a dramatic way. Not in a screaming way. In a quiet, deadly, calm way. I whispered, "Okay." Because now I knew. When Derek finally came home that night, it was almost midnight. He walked in like he owned the world, like he hadn't just crushed me in a parking lot. "You're still up?" he asked, surprised. I was sitting at the kitchen table with papers spread out like a courtroom, bank statements, hotel confirmations, the invoice with Tessa's name. He froze. "What's this?" he asked, his voice sharp. I looked up at him slowly. "You tell me." His face changed, fast guilt, then irritation, then cold honesty. He scoffed. "So you went snooping?" "Snooping," I repeated, my voice trembling. "You've been using our money to pay for hotels." He slammed his hand on the table. "Don't start." I flinched but didn't back down. "Who is she?" He stared at me, jaw tight. "Derek," I said, my voice breaking. "Who is Tessa?" He exhaled like I was exhausting him. "She's someone who actually understands me." I blinked. "I've understood you for 11 years. He shook his head. "No. You've managed me. You've controlled everything. The business, the money, the plans. I'm tired of it." I stared at him, stunned. "So your solution was to cheat?" He shrugged. "I'm done pretending." The words hit me like a slap. I whispered, "Done pretending to love me." He didn't answer. My throat tightened. "How long?" He looked away. "Does it matter?" "Yes," I snapped. "It matters." He rubbed his face, annoyed. "A few months." I felt my stomach twist. "And you were going to just keep going?" He shrugged again. "I was going to tell you eventually." I laughed. but it sounded broken. Eventually, he crossed his arms. I want a divorce, Maya. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the table. A divorce, I repeated. He nodded, cold and sure. Yeah. I stared at him, trying to find the man I married, the man who kissed my forehead and said he'd be lost without me. Instead, I saw a stranger. I whispered, "Is she the reason?" He hesitated, then said, "She's part of it." Part of it, like I was a project he was quitting. I swallowed hard. "So you're leaving me for her?" He didn't deny it. I stood up slowly, my legs shaking. "After everything I've done for you?" He scoffed. "You act like I owe you." I stared at him, my eyes burning. "You do owe me. You owe me honesty. You owe me respect." He grabbed his keys again. "I'm not doing this tonight." I stepped closer. "Where are you going?" He looked at me like I was stupid. "Somewhere I can breathe." I watched him walk out the door, and the sound of it closing felt like a gunshot in my chest. I sank into the chair, shaking. My phone buzzed. It was Leela, I answered, my voice barely there. "He wants a divorce." Leela cursed softly. "Oh honey." I stared at the papers on the table, my proofs scattered like ashes. "He thinks he can just leave and start over." Leela's voice got low. "He can't. Not if you don't let him." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "You're the one who runs his finances," she said. "You're the one who keeps his business alive." I swallowed hard, a slow realization creeping in. Lila continued, "He thinks he's free, but he's forgetting something." "What?" I whispered. Leela said, "He's forgetting you're the reason he ever made it this far." I sat there in the silence, my heartbreak mixing with something new, something sharp, because Derek had asked for a divorce like he was cutting me out. But he wasn't the only one who would pay for his freedom. The divorce moved fast, like Derek had been packing his exit for months. He didn't waste time pretending to work things out. He didn't suggest counseling. He didn't even act sad. It was like he'd already grieved our marriage while I was still living in it. Within a week, he had a lawyer. Within 2, he had paperwork. Within 3, he was staying with a friend, which I knew meant Tessa's apartment. I sat at my kitchen table alone, staring at the same spot where we used to dream together, and I felt like the air in my house had changed, like it didn't belong to me anymore. Lila came over with takeout and a determined look. "You need your own lawyer," she told me. "I can't even think straight," I admitted. She grabbed my hands. "Then let me think for you." I hired a lawyer named Monica Reyes, a sharp woman with kind eyes and a voice that didn't shake. The first time I met her, she slid a folder toward me and said, "Tell me everything, not what you wish was true. What is true?" So I told her. I told her about the message, the hotels, the invoice, the restaurant charges. Monica nodded slowly. "He used marital funds for an affair," she said. "That matters." My throat tightened. "He's trying to keep the business," I said. Monica leaned back. "Did you help build it?" I laughed bitterly. "I built the financial part of it. Without me, he wouldn't know how to invoice a client." Monica's eyes sharpened. "Then we're not letting him pretend you were just a spectator." Derek wanted everything. The business, the truck, the tools, the pride, everything he thought he earned alone. He offered me a settlement that felt like an insult wrapped in legal language. When I read it, my hands shook. He'd written me off like I was nothing. At the mediation meeting, Derek sat across from me in a crisp button-down, looking smug. Tessa wasn't there, but I could feel her influence like perfume in the air. Derek's lawyer said, "Mr. Harlan is willing to be generous." I stared at Derek. "Generous?" Derek leaned forward. "Maya, don't make this harder than it has to be." I laughed softly. "Harder? Derek, you cheated on me." He rolled his eyes. "Here we go," Monica cut in. "Let's keep this professional." Derek looked at her. "You must be the pit bull." Monica smiled politely. "I'm the person who makes sure my client doesn't get robbed." Derek's jaw tightened. The mediation lasted hours. Every time I pushed back, Derek acted like I was being unreasonable. "You're being petty," he said. "I'm being fair," I replied. "You're trying to punish me," he snapped. "You punished me first," I said quietly. At one point, Derek leaned in and hissed, "Tessa isn't the villain you're making her out to be." I stared at him. "No, Derek, you are." His face flushed. By the end, we reached an agreement that wasn't perfect, but it protected me. I got my share of the marital assets. He kept the business, but only because I didn't want to spend years in court. I wanted out. The day the papers were signed, I sat in my car outside Monica's office and stared at my hands. I remembered every late night I stayed up balancing accounts while Derek slept. Every time I reminded him to pay a vendor. Every time I covered for him when he forgot. And then I made my decision. I separated every account that still had my name on it. I closed the joint credit line. I froze the business card tied to my personal guarantee. I didn't break laws. I didn't play dirty. I simply stopped being his safety net. Leela watched me do it, sitting on my couch with wide eyes. "You're really doing it," she whispered. I nodded. "I'm really doing it." She smiled slowly. "Good." Within days, Derek started calling. The first call was angry. "Maya." He barked the moment I answered. "Payments are bouncing. Vendors are threatening to drop me. What did you do?" I kept my voice calm. "I protected myself." "You're sabotaging me," he shouted. "No," I said. "I'm separating my life from yours." He scoffed. "You're doing this because you're bitter." I laughed softly. "Derek, I'm doing this because you're irresponsible." He went quiet for a second, then said, "Fix it." I blinked. "Excuse me, fix it," he repeated, like he was ordering me. I leaned back in my chair. "No." His voice rose. "Maya, you can't just." "I can." I cut in, and I did. He slammed something on his end. "You're ruining my business," I whispered. "You ruined our marriage." Then I hung up. The next call was desperate. "Maya," he said, softer, "please. I'm in a bind." I stared at my ceiling, feeling numb. "Call your consultant," I said. He snapped. "Don't be like that." "Like what?" I asked. "Like someone who refuses to be used." He sighed. "Tessa doesn't understand this stuff." I almost laughed. "That's funny. You said she understood you." He went silent. The third call came at midnight. "Maya," he whispered, "I need you." I sat up, my heart racing. "For what?" "For the payroll," he said. "I can't make it work." I closed my eyes. "Not my problem." He sounded panicked. "If I don't pay them, they'll quit." I swallowed. "Then maybe you should have thought about that before you threw away the person who kept your business alive." He snapped. "You're enjoying this," I whispered. "No, Derek, I'm surviving it." He hung up. After that, the calls stopped, and that's when the twist hit me. A week later, I got a letter in the mail from a bank I didn't recognize. It was addressed to Derek's business, but it came to my house because the forwarding hadn't been updated yet. I almost tossed it aside, but something made me open it. Inside was a notice, a loan default warning. My heart slammed against my ribs. Derek had taken out a loan, and my name was still listed as a guarantor on the paperwork from years ago. Not because I'd signed anything new, but because he'd used an old agreement we'd made when we were still married and trusting. I felt dizzy. I called Monica immediately. "Monica," I said, breathless. "Derek took out a loan. I might be tied to it." Monica's voice turned sharp. "Send me a photo of the letter." I did. She called back 10 minutes later. "He's trying to leverage old documents," she said. "But we can fight it. Don't panic." I gripped my phone. "He did this on purpose," Monica sighed. "He may have, or he may be desperate and reckless," I whispered. "Either way, he's dragging me down with him." Monica's voice got firm. "Not if we stop him." That night, I sat on my couch with Leela, the letter in my lap like a bomb. "He's trying to trap you," Leela said, furious. I nodded slowly. "He thinks I'll fix it." Leela leaned in. "Are you going to?" I stared at the letter, my hands steady now. "No," I said quietly. "I'm going to free myself completely." Monica helped me file the right paperwork. We sent notices. We cut every tie. We documented everything. Derek tried calling again, but this time I didn't answer. A few weeks passed, and I heard through mutual friends that Derek and Tessa were planning a wedding, like they wanted to turn betrayal into a fairy tale. Lila told me over brunch. "You're kidding," I said, my fork frozen midair. She shook her head. "Nope, they're telling people it's a fresh start." I laughed bitterly. "Fresh start with my leftovers." Leela squeezed my hand. "Are you okay?" I stared out the window. I don't know what I am. I thought about Derek's smug face. I thought about Tessa's kiss. I thought about the loan letter. I thought about how quickly they'd moved on, like I was just a chapter they'd closed. I was determined not to go anywhere near that wedding. I wanted no part of it. I wanted peace. Then an invitation showed up anyway. Cream-colored envelope. Fancy script. My name written like I was still family. My stomach flipped as I opened it. Inside was the invitation. Sure, but there was also a note tucked behind it. It wasn't from Derek. It was from someone named Logan Pierce. The handwriting was neat, deliberate. like a warning and a promise, all at once. Please attend the wedding. I need you to see what happens. I stared at the note until my vision blurred, because suddenly, I realized this wasn't over. Not even close. I read Logan Pierce's note at least 10 times before I could even process what it meant. The invitation sat on my coffee table like a dare. Derek and Tessa's names were printed in gold like they were royalty. The date was circled in my mind like a countdown to humiliation. Leela came over that night and picked up the invitation with 2 fingers like it was dirty. They really invited you, she said, disgusted. I nodded slowly. And someone named Logan Pierce wants me there. Leela's eyes narrowed. Do you know him? No, I said. Never heard of him. She flipped the note over. This is weird, I swallowed. What if it's a trap? Lila looked at me. A trap for who? I didn't answer, because I didn't know. Part of me wanted to burn the invitation and pretend it never came. But another part of me, the part that had been lied to, erased, and underestimated, wanted to show up just to prove I wasn't afraid. So I went. The wedding was at a bright barn-style venue outside town. The kind with string lights and white flowers and picture-perfect charm. The parking lot was full of cars, and people walked in laughing like they were attending something joyful. I sat in my car for a full minute, gripping the steering wheel. Lila, who insisted on coming with me, touched my arm. You don't have to do this. I took a breath. Yes, I do. We walked in together, and the first thing I noticed was how fake everything felt. The smiles, the music, the way people whispered when they saw me. Oh my God, that's Maya, someone murmured. Why is she here? Another voice said. I lifted my chin and kept walking. Derek stood near the front, greeting guests like a proud groom. He looked thinner, his suit slightly ill-fitted, like stress had been tailoring him down. When he saw me, his smile faltered. He stepped toward me quickly. Maya, what are you doing here? I smiled politely. I was invited. His jaw tightened. By who? I shrugged. You tell me. He glanced around like he didn't want anyone hearing. This isn't appropriate. I tilted my head. Neither was your affair, Derek. His face flushed. Don't start. I'm not starting anything, I said calmly. I'm just attending. He leaned closer, voice low. Tessa doesn't want drama. I laughed softly. Then she shouldn't have built her relationship on it. Derek's eyes flashed. You're bitter. I met his gaze. I'm free. He looked like he didn't know what to do with that. Tessa appeared a moment later, glowing in a white dress, her hair perfect, her smile practiced. She looked at me like I was a fly in her champagne. Maya, she said, sweet as sugar. Wow, you came? I nodded. Surprise. She laughed lightly. I hope you're here to support Derek. I stared at her. I'm here to witness. Her smile twitched. Witnessed what? Before I could answer, a bridesmaid called her name, and she floated away like she hadn't just tried to erase me with words. Leela leaned in. She's nervous, she whispered. I watched Tessa glance at her phone again, her fingers tapping like she was waiting for something. Yeah, I whispered back. She is. We took seats near the back. My heart pounded, not with sadness this time, but with anticipation. I didn't know why. I just felt like something was about to happen. The music shifted. Guests stood. The officiant took his place. Derek moved to the front, smiling again, trying to look confident. Then the doors opened. A man in a crisp blazer stepped in, calm and steady, like he belonged there more than anyone else. He wasn't dressed like a guest. He was dressed like someone on a mission. My breath caught. Lila whispered, "Is that Logan?" I stared. I think so. Logan walked straight down the aisle, ignoring the stares, ignoring the whispers. He stopped at the front and looked at the Excuse me, he said clearly. May I have the microphone for a moment? The officiant blinked, confused. Sir, it's important, Logan said, his voice calm but firm. Derek's smile vanished. Who are you? He snapped. Logan turned to him slowly. You know exactly who I am. Tessa's face went pale. The room went silent, like every guest suddenly forgot how to breathe. Logan took the microphone and faced the crowd. Before anyone says I do, there's something you deserve to know, he announced. Tessa stepped forward, voice shaking. Logan, don't. Logan didn't even look at her. My name is Logan Pierce, he said, and I'm Tessa Harlow's ex-fiance. Gasps rippled through the room. Derek snapped. This is insane. Logan lifted a folder. It gets better. Tessa's eyes darted around wildly. Stop it. Logan looked at Derek. You thought you were her future, but you were her backup plan. Derek's face twisted. What are you talking about? Logan opened the folder and held up documents. I'm also Derek Harlan's newest silent partner. The room erupted in confused whispers. Derek stepped forward, furious. "You're lying." Logan's voice stayed calm. "No, Derek, you're just desperate." He held up signed agreements. "You borrowed money through shady promises to afford this wedding. You told me you had a thriving business. You told me you needed a short-term investor." Derek's mouth opened, then closed. Logan turned to the guests. "He offered me a percentage of his company in exchange for funding, but he didn't mention one detail. He looked directly at me, that his ex-wife was the one who actually kept his finances running." Every head turned toward me. My cheeks burned, but I didn't look away. Logan continued, "And Tessa," he finally faced her. "She didn't mention she was still messaging me while planning this wedding." Tessa's voice cracked. "That's not true." Logan pulled out his phone. "Text receipts don't lie." He held the screen up. Even from my seat, I could see the message bubbles. Tessa begging, Tessa apologizing, Tessa saying she was confused. Derek's face drained of color. Tessa stumbled back. "Logan, please." Logan cut her off. "You told me you wanted to fix things. You told me you were ending it with him." Derek snapped. "Tessa." She turned to Derek, eyes wide. "I can explain." Derek's voice shook with rage and humiliation. "Explain what?" "That you played me," Tessa cried. "I didn't mean to." Logan looked at Derek. "And you," he said, cold now. "You tried to trap your ex-wife with old loan paperwork. You thought she'd come running back to save you." My heart pounded. Derek whipped his head toward me. "You told him that." I stood slowly. "I didn't have to," I said quietly. "Your mess speaks for itself." The guests were murmuring, some standing, some whispering, some looking like they wanted to disappear. The officiant stepped back like he wanted no part of it. Derek's mother, sitting near the front, covered her mouth. "Derek," she whispered, devastated. Derek looked like he might collapse. "Logan, why are you doing this?" Logan's eyes didn't soften. "Because you both thought you could build a life on lies, and you invited the woman you wronged to watch it happen." Tessa sobbed, mascara streaking. "I didn't invite her," Derek snapped. "Yes, you did." Tessa screamed. "No, I didn't." Logan lifted the note he'd written me. "I invited her," he said simply. The room went dead silent again. I stared at him, stunned. Logan looked at me, and for the first time, his voice softened. "You deserved to see the truth come out in daylight," he said. My throat tightened. I didn't know what to say. Derek stepped toward me, eyes wild. "Maya, you planned this." I shook my head slowly. "No," I said. "I didn't have to, because that was the truth. I didn't need revenge anymore. Karma handled it with paperwork and truth." Tessa ran down the aisle, sobbing, pushing past guests. Derek stood frozen, humiliated in front of everyone he'd tried to impress. Leela leaned in and whispered, "Oh my God." I exhaled slowly, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. Derek's eyes met mine, and for a second, I saw fear there. Not fear of losing Tessa. Fear of losing control. Fear of realizing he'd thrown away the one person who kept him steady. He whispered, "Maya, please." I stared at him, calm. "Good luck," I said. Then, I turned and walked out. The air outside was cool and clean. The string lights behind me blurred as tears finally filled my eyes, not from heartbreak, but from release. Leela followed me, wrapping her arm around my shoulders. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded, breathing deeply. "I think I am." We walked to my car, and I looked up at the sky like it was brand new. That day, I didn't need revenge. I just needed my life back. And I got it, asterisk. So yeah, sweetheart, that's my confession. I didn't win by screaming, begging, or fighting dirty. I won by stepping back and letting the truth expose itself. Derek thought he could trade loyalty for excitement and still keep the benefits of the life I built beside him. But when you stop being someone's safety net, you find out real quick if they ever valued you or just depended on you. If you're listening to this and you're in a situation where you're being lied to, used, or taken for granted, please hear me clearly. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone who refuses to see it. Let karma do its job. Keep your dignity and protect your peace, because the right ending always starts with choosing yourself.